Hey, we're back. I'm Elisa Parker. It's the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, 14 years, the largest film festival of its kind in the world. And if you haven't been down here yet to Nevada City or Grass Valley, our two hubs, by all means, you need to come on down. We're going to be still doing this again tomorrow. And then even on Monday, we have Locals Night, which is some of the other film favorites. I have to say, like, for me, it's just always a highlight to hear these personal stories and the great work that people are doing and bringing them here to share on our platform. It's really just, I'm always in awe. Like, are you guys in awe of just some of the people and films you've seen too, right? Yeah. And every story is so unique and important. Like, it's all so important. So I'm excited here today to have Xander with me, and I wanted to say Marc.
Yeah, Marc.
Oh, I got it. All right, it was Marc. I'm like, I know there's been so many people. Marc and Xander. The film's called Treaty Talks: A Journey Up the Columbia River for People and Salmon. We were just talking about restoring salmon in the Yuba. So this is a film that involves what, like, you're actually trying to showcase bringing back the salmon to the Columbia. You did a paddle. Did you build canoes? Is that right? Did you build canoes in this? Tell me about the film, Xander.
So the film is the journey of 5 salmon-inspired dugout canoes that were carved by school kids on the Upper Columbia River on Lake Roosevelt in 5 different communities: Kettle Falls, Inchelium, Spokane, Welpinit. And this is just the idea was that these canoes would represent the salmon symbolically leaping over Grand Coulee Dam, where there's no fish passage and hasn't been for about 70 years. And so it also talks to people who are involved with trying to get the salmon back up there, and working with Upper Columbia United Tribes and the work they're doing to get the salmon back up.
That's what Marc's involved with, by the way.
Yeah.
So what motivated you in the first place to do this film?
Well, it's been in the works for many years. We've been working with school kids for the last about 9-10 years on the Columbia, taking kids out paddling, college students, youth, and then turned into building canoes.
Yeah.
And seeing how we could turn that into a learning opportunity.
Are you a master at building canoes? Like, how did the kids learn how to build canoes? Like, we're talking, you get like a whole tree and turn it into a canoe.
I think we all learned at the same time. I mean,
did you know, Marc? Are you a master canoe builder?
I'm not a master. I'm building my own right now.
You are?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And these are traditional dugout canoes. And one of the side benefits of the project that they've done is the 5 tribes that I work for, the Upper Columbia tribes, were all canoe people. They were all river people. And with the loss of the salmon also came the loss of their connection with canoes. And so by bringing back this desire for the communities to build canoes, it's kind of jump-started them in re-engaging with that tradition. So as we speak right now, back at our UCOT tribes, there's 6 different 32-foot dugout canoes being constructed right now out of 300 to 600-year-old old-growth cedar trees.
Wow.
And largely in part to the inspiration of this project. So there's ripple effects that are continuing to happen throughout our tribal communities based on this project.
Yeah, how were the tribes involved with the film?
Well, aside from the students who built the canoes, we wanted to, we paddle with everybody. So we really wanted to kind of try and make a connection between public schools, townspeople, towns on the reservation, and so on our way up, we paddled with all these different communities as we brought the canoes back to where they were carved or spawned. And then when we went about trying to find ways to fund the film after this journey to go and do all the interviews, that's when I think a lot of that those relationships we had made along the journey up the river with the tribes came into play, and that's when UCUT really got behind it and made this film possible. That's
great. What are the reaction of the kids when they get in the canoe that they built and start paddling in that?
Well, it's they always want to tip it over. Depending on how old
you have to build stabilizers or something on them, right? Or it would tip over.
They're actually pretty stable.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah.
And they always say they want to tip it over, but then they like you explain to them the consequences, and they'll push that line, but they realize like, oh, bad things could happen if we flip over, and they realize that in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
So they don't.
And I would say to me that that's the highlight of the whole experience. I mean, the teamwork and the camaraderie that's occurring as they build the canoes is huge, but then it's once folks get to paddle them together, and it's not until you've actually done it yourself that you realize the power that occurs when you're paddling with a group of individuals. I mean, it's just natural occurrence that before you know it, folks are singing, paddles are being tapped against the sides of the boat, and it just builds a really strong community that is a really lasting
and
impact
camaraderie
on folks.
too.
Yeah.
And how have the tribes been involved too in educating the kids, for example, around the salmon and restoring the Columbia River with salmon?
Well, one of the things the film highlights is our tribes still go to Kettle Falls, a historic fishing spot, every year and welcome the salmon back, even though they're not returning, and they'll clack rocks together to signify that they want the salmon to know that they're still there and they're still waiting for them. So in that effort, now with the canoes in this film, what the plan is with the 6 canoes that are being carved right now is in June, all of our tribal communities are going to leave their prospective reservations, portage around their dams, and all rendezvous back at Kettle Falls for the first time in 75 years.
Wow.
With the hope that those salmon are going to be coming back in the next 5 or 10 years. So we're going to continue to elevate our presence and let the communities know that the tribes are there for the long haul and they're committed to seeing these fish come back. And what's so important about the Upper Columbia is it's the last coldest, best fish habitat in the lower 48 states, and then up into Canada, which has the cold water also. So with climate change heading our way, with the loss of salmon throughout the whole region, this is one of the best things that we could do for the long term for our great-grandchildren to ensure salmon are still here in the lower 48 states.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming you're going to be capturing that event and experience.
Yeah,
when they're all together.
Yeah.
And what about the salmon restoration? I had Gary on here, a river scientist with SYRCL, talking about how they plan to restore salmon in the Yuba. So what are the plans with? Obviously, this brings attention and awareness too. So what's some of the plans to restore the river with salmon?
So there's a couple options right now. That's the film really focuses on is the Columbia River Treaty. So it's a treaty that gets reassessed every 50 years, and right now is that time, and that they've gone through that assessment, and the decision has been made that they are going to renegotiate that treaty. So the tribes have been essential in adding a third driver to this treaty. The originals were hydropower production and flood control, and now we've added the third leg of ecosystem function, and they've successfully done that through a large series of meetings and efforts. So that's a pretty huge accomplishment. So hopefully through the treaty, and then also the other avenue is through working with BPA and the Army Corps and creating the dollars to help finance the passage facilities that need to be created. And there's a couple options. We're looking at the whoosh technology, the salmon cannon they call it.
The salmon cannon.
That is actually feasible. It's like a surgical tube, a reverse pressurized surgical tube that can shoot salmon over high head dams, believe it or not. So it's a much more affordable option. But then there is, the fish ladders that can ultimately be constructed.
Sure, that's interesting, amazing. All right, the film's called Treaty Talks, A Journey Up the Columbia River for People and Salmon. What would you want to tell folks about why it's so important to support a project like this and even participate in something like Wild and Scenic Film Fest? For both of you.
Well, I think it's just another opportunity to educate the youth. I think that's for our project. That's our main driver, and then for the film, just to show people that these things are possible and that there's whole communities that are involved with it and are supportive of it. A lot of times people, it's easy to focus on say, oh, people don't want this because it's going to make the rates go up, but if that's even the case, but there is the support for it.
Yeah, how about for you, Mark?
And for me, it's just inspiring grassroots activism. I mean, that's what this film festival to me is all about. I've been very inspired being here, but we have all sorts of examples we can point to, and they're being shared here at the film festival. Dams that are being removed and fish that are immediately returning. We have the recent example of the change in course of going and drilling in the Arctic based on activism. And so that's what this is all about, is to motivate and inspire the public and get them to rally behind these causes and and make a difference.
Very cool. Inspiring you to make a difference. That's really what this Film Fest is all about, really sharing these stories and the amazing work that folks like Xander and Marc are doing. Thanks so much for coming, guys. It was great to have you. I'm Elisa Parker, and we'll be right back.